Suddenly, a few days ago, there was deep concern, obviously, for Mr. Rosenblatt. Our prayers are with him and his family, and thank God he has been making good progress. But I think the clear message in the room was a desire to know that there would be ongoing vigilance in what is a very complicated situation around the world right now. And Chief O'Neill and I made very clear our focus on responding anytime there is an incident that causes concern in this community, clear and vigilant response by the NYPD. I hasten to add, again, based on everything we've seen so far in the investigation, this is one very troubled individual with serious mental health issues, and I've spoken separately about the need to address those issues as a society. But in terms of the concern that was raised in this community and other communities around the city, I think there's a clear understanding, certainly for the leaders in the room, that the NYPD is vigilant, is effective, and is quick to respond, and that we're going to continue that.
And at that meeting just wrapped up, let's listen to a little bit of what Mayor DeBlasio has to say.
Mayor, do you still plan on having this type of police presence?
He's taking a question from one of the reporters.
Across the city, and because this appears to be some sort of one-off incident, or someone who obviously has mental illness, why do you think that increased police presence is necessary?
I'm going to start and pass it to the chief. I think if this incident had occurred in a store, for example, and not a synagogue, people might respond differently. I think if it occurred in an atmosphere, that world we hope to see someday soon, where there were never any attacks on Jewish community locations, we might feel different. But remember that just weeks ago, there was an attack
and you're listening to Mayor DeBlasio speaking live after that meeting with community leaders here in Crown Heights after Tuesday's stabbing and shooting. I think the Center will have much more on this a little bit later tonight. For now, I'm filming as live in Crown
Certainly
Heights.
the sense for any of us that a house of worship was invaded violently, even if it was an absolutely isolated act by a mentally disturbed individual, still the sanctity of a house of worship is something I think that unites us throughout our society. So it did cause real sensitivity. The other point I want to make is the NYPD has an extraordinary tradition of being vigilant against any attacks of any kind in any community. But certainly we've long since made the determination that when there is an attack anywhere in the world on a Jewish community location, we treat that as a sign that we have to provide extra support to Jewish community centers here in New York City. And we take that step consistently when we see any possibility of a bigger trend. The NYPD is very quick. If something happens, God forbid, in France or in Argentina, the NYPD takes it as a sign to be on extra alert and to add extra resources to protect Jewish community locations. I think that's a very smart policy. Chief, would you like that?
Sure, I would. So it was a very productive meeting, and as we move forward here, we do respond to the needs of all communities across New York City, and we're doing our best to not only have the perception of safety, but the reality of safety too. So we're going to continue increased coverage in houses of worship throughout the city for the time being.
Mayor, can you talk about more business in the room tonight, and also going forward, what changes or we can see after this incident?
Leaders of key institutions here in the Jewish community, Crown Heights, but also from the African American and Caribbean community, and people who for decades have been working to strengthen the bonds between all the communities here in Crown Heights. So it was a very experienced group of leaders, also some citywide, very prominent Jewish leaders, who were united in recognizing that, first of all, we all have a common obligation to protect each other across all communities. And we have an obligation to work with the NYPD. One of the central points that was made in the meeting is the NYPD always welcomes community members and community leaders offering information or sharing concerns or sharing any sense that there might be a danger that the NYPD could address. So I think it's a very clear message in the meeting of the need to communicate constantly. And I think this is a community where that communication has been often very, very effective in helping to fight everyday crime, let alone any other kind of incident. So a crowd of people who represent the strength of this community and we're very devoted to a constructive solution, we're very appreciative of the NYPD's work.
Will we see this?
Well, again, I'll let the chief follow through on this, but one of the things NYPD is constantly assessing what needs to be done. We obviously, in the aftermath of this incident, added resources here in this community in a number of locations and even outside this community. That's a day-to-day assessment of what is needed, and that's done regularly. You want to add?
Sure. That assessment is done at the local level from the precinct commanders and the borough commanders. So as we went across the city, making our assessment on a local level, we did increase security in certain houses of worship throughout the city.
One more media question, please.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Mayor, how are you?
Just a humble mayor.
I want to say, firstly, thank you to 71st Precinct and all the cops that do a wonderful job. Crown Heights has always been very appreciative of the work that you guys do and have always respected the police in general. How is the city going to show the world that we respect our police and actually take care of ourselves and show the whole world that we're united and not divided?
Well, I think this has been actually a proud time for New York City's last weeks as our police have done an extraordinary job keeping us safe. We're very, very proud of the fact that as this year has progressed, New York City has gotten safer and safer. But even in an atmosphere where there's been a very intense debate over a host of important issues, the NYPD has really functioned as a force that helps everyone express their views peacefully, appropriately, and keeps order at the same time. But let me just finish. The whole nation's been watching that, and I think New Yorkers should be very proud of the fact that the NYPD has handled everything so gracefully in these last weeks.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone.